Hi everyone, this video is going to be all about how to spin flax into linen yarn. So if you missed part one, you can go back and you can learn all about growing and processing the flax from a seed into the fibre. And today we're going to learn about how to dress a distaff, how to use a spinning machine or a spinning wheel, how spinning wheels work, and how you can make your own yarn. So the next stage is we're going to dress the distaff, and so I've made a distaff out of a cardboard cone and some tape, which is very easy to do. You can just fold a piece of card in half and pinch it to make a mark there, and then you can use this halfway point as a marker to know where the top of your cone's going to go. Like this, and then just tape down the sides to make a witch's hat essentially, and then once you're spinning you'll like pop that on a broomstick or some kind of staff to hold it up. And it doesn't have to be a cone. Historically, distaffs come in all kinds of different sizes and shapes. Some of them are just sticks, some of them are more like birds' cages, but this is definitely the easiest one to make at home out of craft materials. And the way that we're going to spread out the fibres, this is a technique that Rita showed me at the summer school two years ago, is to have them in a half moon shape, and you're gently holding one edge with one hand and then pulling on alternative tails with the other hand. And what you want to do is make a very thin layer of fibres and have it be almost sort of spider web like in how it's spread out. So you don't want too many fibres pointing in the same direction. And the idea is that once you're spinning, when you pull at one fibre, that'll be attached to sort of two or three more, and then another few and another few, and you're not getting all of the fibre coming in like uneven clumps, because that would make it very, very difficult to control the thickness of the yarn that you're spinning. So sort of really taking your time at this stage to spread all the fibres out will hugely pay off in terms of how easy it will be to spin. And you can also see at this point that there are a few last little bits of the skin of the plant, which you can get rid of if you did all of your combing in a hurry like I did earlier. So yeah, once we've got this spread out, you can then take your distaff cone and start winding it up like this. And then once you've got it all full, you can just keep going across the table, gently spreading it out. And yeah, the idea is to have many, many thin layers of flax wrapped around the distaff. And you can keep going with this. I'm just doing a small handful to demonstrate here, but you can really load as much as possible, almost so that you can't see the cone at all and it's completely covered in flax. So if you want to spin loads and loads of yarn, you can fill it up as much as you like. There we go, I've got to the end, little bits here. And then this is ready for the spinning wheel. You can see. Okay, so the next step is spinning, and we've got our cardboard distaff on a broom, and the easiest thing to do to get it to play still is just to sellotape it to a nearby table or chair. Some spinning wheels, which are specifically made for flax, actually have distaffs attached to them. This little toy spinning wheel has an attached distaff, so you can tell this is a flax specific spinning wheel. But this big one doesn't, so I'm just going to sellotape a broom to a chair. And the main difference, other than the distaff, to wool spinning is that you can spin flax wet. And so I've got a little bowl of water here with a sponge in, which just helps to prevent accidental spilling. So I'm going to be periodically just like dampening my fingers as I'm spinning, and this will really help to like smooth out the fibres and create like a nicer, smoother yarn. And because linen's so absorptive, it's actually stronger when it's wet, so you can spin a thinner yarn that won't snap as easily if you keep it moist whilst spinning. And so, as I was saying earlier, that you want to break it when it's dry, spinning's off, so you want to spin it when it's wet. So I'll now explain briefly how the spinning wheel works. So you've got a pedal, which you're working with your foot, which is moving this part up and down, and then that is driving the main big wheel round. And so you want to keep your eye here on this part and press down once it's gone just past halfway. If you press it too soon when it's over here, then it'll go down there and send the wheel the opposite direction from where you're trying to spin. And flax is traditionally spun with the wheel going anti-clockwise from my point of view, but you can spin it in either direction. There's a bit of a debate as to which is the best or proper way to do it, but I think mostly it is just a cultural tradition. It doesn't like wildly affect the quality of the yarn in any way. And I have actually seen a really interesting weaving project where somebody did half S twist and half Z twist, and they caught the light in very subtly different ways, so you can do a combination of both. So we can see here that the bigger wheel is then turning this much smaller wheel incredibly fast. And if I just stop for a second, so what's going on here is this is spinning the bobbin, which is this part, and it's also spinning the flyer arms, which are these arms round the edge like this of the bobbin, and this string here is acting as a brake, which is slowing down the bobbin slightly by just putting a bit of friction on it. And what you want is for the outer arms to be moving slightly faster than the bobbin, and this means that it will wind on the yarn as well as spinning it. So you're doing two different things. You're both spinning the yarn and winding the finished spun yarn onto the bobbin, and that means you can do continuous spinning. And in older models of spinning wheels just had a big spike sticking out of them, and you'd spin for a bit and then you'd have to stop and wrap it up, and it was a lot more like stop-starty. So this was like a big step forward in spinning technology. I'm going to say maybe like 400 years ago. And so yeah, so you can either get ones that have a brake like this, which is slowing the bobbin down with friction, or you can get ones like the model one I've got up here, where it actually has two drive belts, and so they'll be spinning, one of them will spin the bobbin and one of them spins the arms at like different ratios, and so you can get like different sized parts here to spin at different speeds and different ratios. So I'm just going to fasten on some flax from the distaff, and using a little bit of water, And obviously my left hand is mostly concentrating on feeding a steady stream of fibres from the distaff, and then my right hand is controlling how fast it's disappearing into the machine. And so what you want to do is alternate between pinching quite hard and holding the fibre still so that it gets a twist into it, and then slightly letting go and letting it run through your fingers and be drawn on and like wound on into the bobbin. And if you feel like it's not drawing fast enough, then you actually want to increase the amount of tension on the bobbin. So you're slowing the bobbin down in comparison to the speed that the flyer arms are going, and that'll make it draw in faster. And it's worth doing a bit of experimenting when you first start to figure out like what's the correct speed and ratio that you want to spin at to get sort of different thicknesses of yarns. And what's nice about having the distaff here is it means I've got both of my hands can sort of be free to like dip into the water. I'm not having to like constantly hold the fibre, it's like held here for me. So if you've not set up a spinning wheel before, you want to start off by having a piece of yarn tied around the bobbin, which is this bit here, which is called a leader, and that's what you'll start spinning onto. And so you've got it tied around the bobbin, and then it's going to go over these little hooks on the flyer arm, and these are the two arms. And the purpose of the hooks is so that you can fill up the bobbin evenly as you go. So you can see it's got quite full at the end here, so I'm going to move on to the next one. And then most spinning wheels come with this little tool, like a little tiny hook, which can go in the hole just here and then pull the yarn through out the side. And then as you're spinning, it'll get twisted and twisted as you hold it still, and then once it's got enough twist built into it and it looks sort of strong enough, then you can let go, and like not fully let go, just let it run through between your finger and thumb and get wound onto the bobbin, which happens, as I was saying before, because these outer arms are spinning faster than the bobbin, so they will lap round it and wind the yarn on here. And I'm using my left hand for drafting, so I'm pulling small amounts of fibre off the distaff and then just sort of making sure that I'm trying to send a consistent amount onto the spinning wheel, and then just having a little pause every now and again to re-dampen my fingers. I don't know if you can see some of the yarn here. So this is quite varied because I was teaching a workshop last week, so these are lots of different people's attempts at yarn spinning. I'm just like making excuses for myself here. Yeah, it's not all me. I didn't make this sort of string. This is my bit. After you've spun your flax, the final thing that you're going to want to do is finishing. and I've got a few samples here in my sketchbook of flax that's been, linen now, linen yarn, that's had different processes done to it. So you can see this one here, this is unfinished. So this has just come straight off the bobbin of the spinning wheel. And you can see it's like a darker colour and it's still quite hairy. Whereas this one in the middle has actually been boiled for an hour and then rinsed out. And this does two things. It really cleans it up, and it can also smooth out, and you can see that it's a smoother texture and also a lighter colour. A lot of the dirt from the field has been washed away. And then this third bit at the end has also been smoothed out, and I was really impressed at what a big difference this made to the quality of the finished flax yarn. So this final one has been re-smoothed whilst wet. So if you have one skein on a Swift and you're winding it onto a second Swift, and as you're winding it, passing it in between a little sponge, and that made a huge difference. And that was a great tip that I learned from Rita at the summer school last year. So yes, I would really recommend Rita's workshop if you want to get all of the very in-depth flax spinning and weaving information.